raw and relevant conversations. You know that there is no editing in this podcast, so whatever goes, whatever is said goes, I should say. Can't even cut that one out. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the episodes. I've been really enjoying all of the reviews. I love your honest feedback, so please keep that coming. I'm Katie Brown, I'm your co-host, and today's special guest is one that I've had a pretty long relationship with now, since 2016 when he was announced as the Australian Jillaroos Head Coach. Also, he stepped in as caretaker coach of the Warriors women's team in 2021 and also the GM of Player Pathways. Brad Donald! Mate, that is quite the intro.
Wow, it is quite an intro, and you're making me feel really old. I probably had red hair back then when I think you might have interviewed me on Burleigh Beach when I was when I was first appointed to the Jillaroos role. Yeah, many moons ago.
I remember that story thinking, I have just struck gold here. For me, I was like interviewing the Australian women's coach. This is so cool. What a cool exclusive for Channel 7 where I'm back at now. Yeah. And you're still with the Australian women's?
Yeah, it's a great story because I was probably feeling the same way. You know, like I'd been involved with the women's program, the Queensland Origin, and outside of the State of Origin week or the Interstate Challenge as it was called back then, there was probably no interest in, you know, what we were doing, who we were, and it was the first sign that people were starting to show interest. And so, you know, you've pretty much been along for the journey and seen what's happened, so it's great.
Yeah, I've seen you on your journey too, and I've been able to watch from afar and also intimately in terms of just how much the women's game's changed. And we'll get into that soon, but fast five off the top.
Whoa.
Yeah, this is fast. So you and I really like to have in-depth conversations that go for hours, but this is fast.
Yeah, good luck here.
Okay, first kiss.
Yeah. Oh, gee whiz.
Real icebreaker this.
Yeah, no, it is. Year 10 after party, Eloisa, I think, Kiwi girl. Yeah, and she must have, I don't know if she was intoxicated, but being a redhead, it took me a long time to get my second kiss as well, which was probably after school. So thanks, Eloisa. You made me feel good for a couple of years there.
And you're not married to Eloisa, but you do have a ripper wife. Gorgeous
yeah.
family.
Oh, the best. Yeah. Yeah, Sir Donald Bradman, batting well and truly over average.
We'll talk about the family. This is quick so far. I love it.
Yeah.
If you had a boat, what would it be called?
Oh, if I had a boat, what would it be
like
called?
Like a big super yacht.
Ducky, maybe. And I just, like, my dad was in the Navy, and like Donald Ducky, his nickname was Ducky, and he had a boat, but he never got time to. Never got time to. He was an interstate truck driver, so he never got time to drive his boat. So I'd call it Ducky after my dad.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm glad. For some reason, that was a question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, and some reason it just popped out. There you go.
So good. Okay, pet peeve.
Just people that that are into, you know, the selfish, you know, like, yeah, that's my peeve. But there's two kinds of people in the world. There's ones that are in it to make the world better, and there's ones that are in it to make it better for themselves. So that's my peeve. Christy always says I've got a really bad social justice radar that I've got to let go of.
No, hang on.
It's a pretty big peeve, isn't it? Sorry. Okay.
We're getting deep. No,
yeah. Moving
it's okay.
on.
I asked. Okay, party trick.
Oh, yeah. Whoa. And this is coming back to haunt me. I've got an almost 17-year-old.
Okay.
Skull a jug of beer. Yeah. Not good, hey. And killed many a brain cell. And, yeah, just found out that I could skull stuff when I was young, and my young fella's got the same ability.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a good party trick.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
So when you celebrate the Rugby League World Cup win, I'll be there to watch you skull a jug of beer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Handshake?
Yeah, handshake.
Oh!
There we go.
And we got that on camera.
Yep, we're on.
Last one,
Yep.
cheat meal.
Cheat meal. Oh, Zinger box.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, my boys love them, and they're always at us for a Zinger box. So yeah, cheat meal.
How often would you have a Zinger box?
Yeah, okay. Cheat meal once a week. No, it's like we have takeaway night in our family, so maybe once a month.
Yeah, I like that. I like it. Okay, we got through that relatively quickly.
Very, very quickly.
The next thing I like to ask is one word that best describes yourself. So we can change our emotions here and maybe get a little deeper, but sometimes it's a little tricky for people to find one word.
Yeah, I think. Look, a lot of people might disagree. I'd use the word giving. Mm-hmm. Like I like to give. and it's probably to the detriment sometimes. I know in the past I've probably given to the wrong people, and it's the detriment of my family and all the rest of it, but I get great joy out of giving, be it a polo shirt. And if you've worked in the game of rugby league, like you see the joy that a polo shirt can bring somebody in the game. Or and I learnt really early in my in my career that just in life in general, the best thing that you can give anyone is your time. So, I don't think, and I apologise to anyone that's listening that would disagree, but if somebody's reached out to me and asked for my time, I almost always give it to them no matter who they are, or whether or not I was, back in my days of being a game development officer in Western New South Wales or the Jillaroos coach, if somebody reaches out, I always try and give them my time. So, yeah, that'd be it for me, I think.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Giving.
It's your word that describes you, and I'm certainly not disagreeing.
Yeah, no. As long as you don't disagree.
No, well, it's
Or
more relevant.
I won't give you anything.
I need you to tell me everything soon. No.
Okay.
Also, this episode, if you do get into a bit of trouble, maybe you can get Workplace Law to help you out. Shane and Athena, very good. But they've jumped on board, and I'm really, really proud. And I guess for our listeners, it's a partnership that resonates very well and closely with a lot of female athletes. We like to empower females and people who are encouraging of female sport and females just in general. You're one of those. And I think for anyone who is looking for representation at a tribunal or looking for somebody to look over a contract or a sponsorship deal, Shane and Athena and the team there at Workplace Law are happy to help. So you don't actually have to have $1 million if you need a hand there. So workplacelaw.com.au, you can get in touch. They'll be in my podcast notes. But Brad Donald, back to you. You have done just about everything in the space of rugby league. You're a teacher by trade, and then you came into women's rugby league, and the way that you found it was almost, not by default, it was almost meant to be. Can you tell us a bit about your story of where you started and how you progressed through to being the coach of the Australian women's team?
Yeah, look, I'll try and keep it short too, but I'd taken a job. I was working at the Canberra Raiders, and I saw myself as a career coach, and I'd been offered a job in game development, which I'm extremely passionate about as well. Like the grassroots of the sport is what's given me everything in the game, from my relationships to the people I know and the career. So I was really passionate about that, and there was an opportunity to come to Queensland and basically lead a team in the game development and coaching space, as well as I sort of got told, we'll find you a coaching gig while you're here. And much to my disappointment at the time, and I'm embarrassed to say that now, it was to help the Southeast Queensland women's side. And I always talk about this first session that I went to that had Karen Murphy, Nat Dwyer, Tani Norris, Joe Barrett, all these legends of the game that had played, 20 and 30 tests for Australia. And they were the easiest team that I'd ever coached. Mm. And I was just so surprised at what they hadn't been exposed to. The lack of, I remember asking why there wasn't a female coaching. And I learned this lesson early. The person that was in charge of putting me into this role said, well, Karen Murphy's about to retire. I think that was probably about 10 years before she actually did retire. And, maybe have a bit of a chat to her. And I did. And I said, and she said, listen, the best thing you can do is show up again next year. And I went, oh, okay. So they'd seen a lot of people come over and use the women's space to further promote themselves and get jobs elsewhere, or maybe just didn't have the time. So from that point in time, I felt a really strong sense of responsibility to help out where we could. And, we've been able to do some amazing things since that, back in 2011, that training session was, yeah.
There's been so much change. What's been one of the proudest moments for you coming through the ranks?
Oh, look, there's lots. Women's State of Origin at North Sydney Oval, crazy. Yeah.
2018?
2018, yeah, that was something crazy. And look, that was something too that, I'm not sure, who was the person that was brave enough in the end, but and the decision maker, whether it was Andrew or Todd at the NRL, but we were sort of saying at the time, Friday night, there's no game on, and they grabbed it and ran. And so that basically put, the old saying, you can't be what you can't see. All of a sudden we could see these young ladies who would work so hard running around and really normalise rugby league. And if I didn't get 100 messages that night, I got 200 from people going, "Oh, these girls can really play." Yeah, like that's what we've been doing for the last 6 or 7 years. The first State of Origin game, or the Interstate Challenge game that I coached in, we played at Davies Park. And it wasn't even the curtain raiser to the Intrust Super Cup game. It was before the Colts. So
wow.
it wasn't, and that would have been 2013 or 14. So we've come a long, long way.
Yeah, and I think there's been so much that's happened in the women's rugby league space. I'm very passionate, as are you, and it's really easy to forget how far we have come. So it's always a nice reminder, because this year we will see a standalone NRLW Grand Final, which is so exciting too, here in Queensland at Redcliffe. And these things need to be celebrated. That's why I think I interview somebody like you, because I feel like you need to be celebrated. There's been so many highs and lows in your coaching career. And I'll let you explain, but is it coming to a point now where it's no longer a little family in women's rugby league?
Yeah, it probably is. I'll just make the first point about the standalone grand final and why it's great, and why this State of Origin standalone is so great, because I think we hear so many people going, "Oh, it should be a curtain raiser," but you go, why do you want the best game in the country that year to be an add-on experience for the men's game? It's a whole new market. The St George Illawarra Dragons, when they first put their NRLW team in, I think they got around about 1,500 NRLW members only, and only 5% of those were current male members, and that's pretty much the transition right across female sport. So we're opening up new markets. The point about the game evolving and changing, it's something that I had to come to terms with probably last year, and what's happened is there's so many. I think it's really hard for people that have been involved with the game for a very long time to get the balance right between the past, the current, and the future. And it's really, really hard to satisfy everybody. There's always going to be resentment in some of the old players, but there's also a lot of the old players that are celebrating the success. And then there's there's a bunch of girls in the middle, some that would just play for nothing and don't really care, and then there's others that are really pushing the envelope and going, no, we should be paid the same as the men. So trying to find that balance in between is really, really difficult. And I think we were able to, when the group was small, to get everybody's thoughts and pretty much come up with a solution that suited everybody, and everybody felt like they had a say in it. And now, we're seeing, and it's not detrimental, that so many people are seeing some or they're showing interest because they can see what they can get out of the game as well, from clubs to players' associations to the governing bodies of states. That we actually see what we've got in front of us. 51% of the Australian population are females. How we weren't working in this market for the last 50 years is beyond us, and we probably think this right across all sports. So we couldn't manage it anymore. And I'm not saying that we couldn't manage it. I think now that it's sort of there's going to be some bruises, and there's going to be some teething issues as the game grows. Because, some people have a really strong view that the girls should be professional. Now, every time that the game expands, they've also got the same view that we should have 14 teams, 16 teams. But every time the game expands, it makes it another step away, or it makes it another step harder for it to be professional, because then we've got to pay another 50 players, another 50 auxiliary staff, full-time wages, So there's all these little dials that, I think we were all involved in those decisions. Now we've got the right people taking care of those decisions. Hopefully that all makes sense. Yeah.
It makes sense. And it's a huge talking point. You sort of hit the nail on the head with the participation numbers. I know in rugby league, the female participation is the fastest growing part of the game. For people who aren't rugby league fans, at the moment, you have 2 state competitions in the QRLW and the Harvey Norman New South Wales Women's Premiership. We have 2 NRLW Premierships this year.
Yes.
State of Origin game, and a Rugby League World Cup at the end of the year. There's a full calendar year for female rugby league players in 2022. So exciting. How do you manage that? And how do you grow it properly and safely and viably, I guess, moving forward?
So I think early days, like when I was sitting on the outside, I was thinking, why are we investing so much into the Jillaroos and national program? Now that really we weren't investing that much, but it was. We're thinking, I got to build the pathways. But actually having that product up there, and most people know who the Jillaroos are now. Like it's a well renowned, and we haven't played for 2 years. So using that while we develop the pathways, and I guess that's what I've seen as my next duty is. I'm so passionate about the Jillaroos jersey and making sure that when the time comes for me to pass the baton on to the next coach, hopefully a female coach, that we've done the right thing. But now I can get into working with the states. We've got national women's championships for under 19, so every state in Australia has representation, and every player has access to being seen by an NRLW club now. So building those pathways. And it's also building capability and capacity in the people that are around them. So we need coaches, we need strength and conditioning coaches, we need physiotherapists, we need all of those great people to help come through the pathway as well, not just the players. So we've got to, and with that comes we need facilities. And I'm on the board of Rugby League Gold Coast, and at the moment we've got girls ready to go, but we just haven't got field space and we haven't got the facilities. So there's a lot of work to be done, and people just say, oh yeah, whack on, get 16 teams out there as quick as you can. We're trying to develop the pathway and the talent pool as well.
Yeah, and that's probably a really good thing to understand as well. If you are a female, you can play rugby league all the way through. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is, and we've still got some work to do with that because we put together a draft strategy in October 2019, which all the states and bodies have adopted. We basically counted under 6s to under 12s girls can play with boys. Now that probably only lifts the lid on 5% of the females that want to play the game. So there's areas that are now opening up to under 8s, under 10s, under 12s. There's definitely players that have come through the system now and are in NRLW clubs, or they're sitting in the QAS academy programs that have played from under 6s all the way through to opens, and they're an exciting breed of player. It's second nature to those players. Where a lot of our stars that run around in the Jillaroos always had that, even if they played for a couple of years as juniors, they always had that 12 to 18-year-old, and they had to come back as open players. So it's exciting, but our next little place that we've got to start working on is making sure that there's opportunities for girls to play with girls from under 6s to under 12s.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
So yeah, and look, the player development framework sees it sees us use the Tackle Ready program and tag for under 6s and under 7s. So it's great. Boys and girls can play together then, but once we start getting into those tackle rounds and competitions, then we need to make sure that there's opportunities for under 8s, under 10s, under 12s. Like this week, we've just announced down on the Gold Coast that the under 12s program down there will be called the Karina Brown Challenge. Now, she's been somebody that's given to the community for ages, and just a different product. They roll up, they do the Tackle Ready program. They'll do a few things like Karina, like be mindful, kick a field goal. Not that I can see Goose kicking a field goal. And hopefully, if she kicks a field goal to win the World Cup, then we'll give her a pat on the back. But and then they go into a home and away competition that's a little bit different, Tuesday, Thursday nights, and then some round robin stuff at the end of it. So that is going to be a female-only product. Wow. That's a little bit different, and we're going to see more of that emerge across the country. So that's really cool. Really passionate about that and making sure that our pathways are right. So we got that bit at the top right. We've raised the bar on professionalism, and we're just opening our arms as a rugby league community to make sure we've got a whole new breed of players and families coming into our community.
So does that almost lend itself to us knowing when realistically there will be a full women's fixture? If that's the part you're working on now, 6 to 12-year-olds, is it realistic to say that in 10 years there may be a full-fledged competition? Like what is the plan for elite women's rugby league in Australia?
Yeah, look, it's been a bit suck it and see, hasn't it? And I think we've followed many other sports in doing this. I remember us being criticised heavily for only having 4 teams originally. But I can tell you that, like, in those early days, that was really strongly player-led, because the players were adamant that they wanted to do the very best they could and put the best product on. And the other thing that we don't account for, and this is the skill and the fitness of the AFL girls is amazing. So I'm not taking anything away, but if they can get a fit girl that can kick and is very athletic, you can get them into most positions in an AFL squad. Whereas we're really specific in rugby league. You can't just go and put that. You've got to be mindful about who you play front row. Packing a scrum and hitting the ball up. You can't just put an athletic young lady in that position, and key positions like hooker and halfbacks. So, we've got really specific positions. So it's taken us a little bit longer. So to your point, I can't answer it. Like, I honestly don't know. All we can do is make sure that the funnel is wide. And like I said, as the NRLW clubs start to extend their time with the players, they're going to produce more players as well, because that's what they're great at. It used to be, the responsibility used to be on us. It used to be on the states, but now really that's what they're great at. They produce the NRL player. They pick the ones with talent at a certain age, and hopefully out of our under-19s championships, they develop them, turn them into NRLW players, and as more and more of them progress into that, then we'll see expansion. Okay. But again, like I said to you before, mate, that it's turning the right dials, and like it's like where do we actually want to be if we want the game to be professional? So if we say 16, for us to have 16 teams and that amount of talent and full time, like it could be 30 years away, but it might be 5 years away if it's 6 or 8 teams, or if it's a program that encompasses state of origin, 2, 3, 5 games, the Jillaroos and NRLW with the players not having to play state league. Which they're so passionate about, to make sure that the pathway stays open as well. So that's great. Yeah,
it's a tricky situation. So the broadcast rights, CBA, collective bargaining agreement, that happens and is happening at the moment, because it'll tick over after Rugby League World Cup into 2023.
Yes.
What then is there? Does there have to be a plan? Like, surely there will be a working group that looks ahead into the next 5 years and says, all right, this is what we want to achieve by. No, is there not that?
Yeah, no. There would be. I'm not privy to those discussions, and it's probably best that I'm not, because of my other roles in the game in terms of taking care of the pathway and the Jillaroos stuff. But like, if you go back in time, I think it was on the eve of Rugby League World Cup in 2017, and had a great relationship with a couple of people at the Players Association, as well as at the NRL at the time, and we said, guys, we're begging you, can we just put some money aside, because we weren't even really looking at it, and it was on the eve of us about to play the biggest game of the women's game here against the Kiwi Ferns at Suncorp Stadium, December 2, 2017. So
I remember it.
Yeah, I remember it. And I remember I was standing in the mall on the phone to people like Lockie Smith at the NRL and Tim at the RLPA, and going, God, because they were talking about doing another deal. And fortunately, it was a small amount of money, but it was enough for us to basically think the World Cup was over and we were all going on a holiday, to us being called into a room and saying, right, what are we going to do to grow the game? So I think, that's definitely going to be. I think the boys have got some responsibility in this as well, and I think there's been criticism of everybody in this space, but the boys renegotiating, they'll be able to negotiate as well to make sure that the girls are well looked after moving into the future. And it probably does. Everything in rugby league works on those cycles. So just from my small amount of time, 20 years in the game, I think that's what we'll see. I'm not dodging the question at all. I just think that it's going to be a combined effort to make sure that this time around it's not an afterthought. They go, hey, let's stick a little bit of money in for the women's as well. And look, the NRL has gone above and beyond in terms of what they've paid because of that and growing the competition. So it's been great to have the support of. If everybody's making noise and everybody wants it to happen, then happy days.
For sure. And I think you and I are pretty good at having an honest conversation. Like, I know that there would be rugby league fans listening going, yeah, well, how bad was the treatment last year when the game was postponed a number of times and now it's being played this year? And for me, looking back, hindsight's a wonderful thing, and I'm sure that even people at the NRL look back and go, cool, we probably could have dealt with that a little differently. But that was at the time. And I guess, like, the women do need to have, like, a body where they can go to and get direct communication. And it seems like at the moment there's still bodies everywhere trying to all make noise, but no one's on the same page.
Yeah, and that's happened a fair bit because, like I said, it's hard for us that have been around for a while because we go with good intent, and goodwill, and I'm not saying that all those other bodies aren't, but we all want the girl to put the Jillaroos hat on and represent my team at my time and do this, and then the local club hat to do this, and the state hat and the NRLW hat, and we've got to get away from that. We've got to take those decisions away from the girls. And I think that's why it was messy for us last year as well. We were actually trying to do the right thing by the players, and there were some people that were adamant that they wanted the NRLW competition to go ahead, and there were some that were just couldn't get it done, that it was just unachievable to make everybody happy. And it was the reason it was so late was because there was good intent. And there was good intent from everybody, and there was good intent from the people that were, like, slagging off that, it should have gone ahead. But behind the scenes, there was also some people. No. Like, I just think that there's not enough. And this is what we try and do in the women's space, is bring all the opinions to the table and sort of sense check where we're all at, that there was other things going on behind the scenes there, and it might have come across like, there was rash decision. And again, I wasn't involved in those decisions, but I'll always judge, and I think I've went back to the thing that bugs me the most, is if the intention's right. I think so many people had the right intention that we're all getting tangled up with each other because we're all trying to do the right thing. Yeah. And we'll only be better for it.
We're passionate about it.
Yeah.
Everybody is really passionate about it because it's not at that place where you want it to be just yet, but good reminder to know how far it has come. And just a bit on you and your career, like, I know in the lead up to this conversation I said, highs and lows, pros and cons. When you did me sending you that message make you have a look and go, oh, I've done quite a bit, because you have.
Yeah, well, look, fortunate to do a lot of work with you, mate, over the years, and I appreciate what you've done for me as well. And, like, if I'm sitting here on behalf of making the game better. It's the, I heard Mal say this, personal accolade comes with team success, so really I sit here on behalf of anyone that's ever, the first coach of the Jillaroos in 1990, or the first Australian women's team in 1993, the first coach of the 1995 for Steve Folkes and Graham and Graham Murray and Paul Dyer and anybody that's been involved. I sit here on behalf of them and hopefully am carrying the torch. But, you've been a great supporter, and there's been times when I think we did a piece when I was going down to help the Warriors out, and it just took me back to, I was a really average footy player, but I loved it like nothing else, and I could see it in my kids. They just want to get to training and be with their mates and all the things that you hear our elite players talk about. Some of the greatest moments for me in rugby league was doing the coaching course in Cobar, where most people wouldn't know where Cobar is, or
tell them.
Yeah, or way out west, or going to Menindee and Broken Hill and Armidale and Guyra and places like that, and meeting people that are really passionate about so that stuff's been really cool. But then, being able to stand on the stage in 2017 with Steph Hancock, Renee Kunst and Ruan Sims and raise the World Cup, not actually knowing what was about to happen, I look at that moment and go, wow, we dreamt that moment up in our heads as a group, and that is the reason we're at this part of the game.
Dreams do come true.
Oh, totally.
Really cool. I would just like to say congrats and good luck. And I think for our listeners as well, Brad has been the backbone of the women's game since I've been involved, and I know I'd be speaking on a lot of people. Not everyone, because you're not going to have everybody who loves you, but I can raw and relevant here, can speak on behalf of a lot of people, and I know that they would respect everything you've had to say. I know during COVID it was a tough time for everyone, and you continued to work. You did whatever it took to keep the game alive, and you were even doing rapid testing, and there's so many things, there's so many great things that I know you've done, which I don't even know about yet. But I just want to say thanks for coming on and adding some light to the women's game, and we really appreciate having someone like you on board.
Mate, I appreciate the time to talk, and like I said, there's plenty of people you out there that are supportive, and upset a few people on the way, but I just the intention's always been right for a father of two boys to be so deeply engaged in the women's game and passionate about it. Like I said, hopefully one day can just step back and watch it all flow and go, there was a few mistakes in there. And there has been, but there's also, we also pushed it in the right direction with people like yourself and lots of other great believers. And can't wait to see what the future holds. Thanks for having us.
Got to make sure you stay around after the Rugby League World Cup.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
You're not gonna hang up the boots.
No.
Don't drop that on me.
No, definitely not. Like
Okay.
I really think I've got a lot more to give in this space. I've done some even just on my own coaching, because I haven't been able to coach since the Warriors stuff, and some great people around me like Neil Henry and Mal Meninga, those guys, learning from those guys as well, and getting out and just watching some of these new NRLW coaches emerge. Dean Witters, Jamie Soward, Jamie Feeney taking his coaching career to the next step. Those things, and I'm so excited about Tani, Kylie, and the Jess Skinners of the world, because really I can't wait for the day where we're not even talking about gender.
Yeah.
It's I know Jess is doing some amazing things with the NRL squad, not the NRLW squad, the NRL squad at the Knights. So we're starting to see people. Doesn't matter whether you're male or female. You're valued in the game for what you know and what you bring.
Yes. Yeah, it won't be a gendered thing soon, but until it is, we do highlight the gender thing until we don't need to do it any longer. Brad Donald, I appreciate you so much for coming on Real Talk.
Thanks, KT Brown.
Yeah. I do just need to mention, make sure you like and subscribe, leave a rating or a review, 5 stars all the time, nothing less, okay, wherever you get your podcast from. And 7 a.m. next Tuesday is when the next episode drops. And a big thanks to workplacelaw.com.au. Shane and Athena, the team there, are the ones that have helped me and Real Talk team make this come to light, because we always need a partnership, and they've been fantastic to empower myself and other female athletes. And anything that you may need assistance with in terms of the law workplace, whether you just need representation or sponsorships or somebody to look over your contract, because there's plenty of that happening at the moment. You don't need $1 million. They're happy to help you. So reach out to Shane and Athena at workplacelaw.com.au. See you next time.